Welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats. So within the last 5 years, I remember 2 summers where I was really into running. And that was super weird for me to say because I am a former high school football athlete and we always viewed running as a form of punishment. So whether it was we didn't get the proper grades or we were failing in school or we were screwed up in practice or during a game, we knew that our punishment for those falses would be to run. So it always had a negative connotation in my head. So fast forward from high school on to, let's say, the summer of 2016, 2017. I'm working at Nike Portland, and maybe it was because I didn't have enough money to invest in a gym membership, but I knew running was going to be the easiest way, or not the easiest, but the most cost-efficient way to get my exercise in and just to stay in shape. So I remember going into, let's say, a run where I was planning to do about 10 miles. I would stop and think to myself, how would Jacob Abrego tackle this? So my guest this week is Jacob Abrego from my former Nike Portland days. So Jacob's still stuck with the company, and now he is currently working on campus and working with corporate. So as someone that has worked in the grunt stages of Nike, so like the sales positions, always customer interfacing, very happy for him to have excelled on from the retail stores and onto campus, because that was always the dream when I was there representing the swoosh. It was always, everyone was always grinding and everyone was always trying to find the correct connections to make it onto campus. So ultimately that wasn't my dream, but I was still very proud of the time that I spent representing that swoosh. So Jacob had a presence about him, whether he'd be walking into the store and everyone just kind of perks up a little bit, we start cheering maybe as a joke, but he always brought he brought it. He always brought that amazing work ethic that got him from the sales athlete that didn't know much to being one of the most recognizable Nike Portland figures and going off into campus, or just his knowledge of running from his time running for Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders, to just not his knowledge about the brand and how in depth he dedicated himself to learning about Nike and to help in order to help him move into this new position that he has right now, or he's had for about 2 years. So I knew I wanted to pick his brain about his Nike journey, his Nike passion, and also running, as now I kind of consider myself 50-50 of that weightlifter from my high school football days to now a runner, where anything like 5 miles and above I always see as a challenge, and I'm always excited. It's weird. So I was very happy to get him on. He's now located in Austin, Texas, so he is currently enjoying some nice heat while the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, is enjoying a nice little chill. But he is up here periodically, so he's never too far to come back to his second home. So before we dive into my chat with Jacob Abrego, I want to remind everyone that I am always and forever going to work on this DC animated movie review. 2017 is officially up there for everyone to critique or just take a look at. And 2018 is about 2 films away from being completed, and so keep an eye out for that one. But if you want to check out 2017, go to keoniconlu.com, keoniconlu.com. If you're on your phone, click the menu button. If you are on your laptop, click the blogs tab, and then once you see the DC photo, click on that one, and it should take you to each entry. So you'll see some entries with 2 years, some with 1 year. It's just because I want to do about 5 to 6 films per entry, just depending on, let's say there's 6 films for 2018, then I want to make sure I just cover the whole 2018, because why not? So it's a fun project. It always brings a lot of joy to me when I bring it up, or I get to work on it, because I get to view the film again from another perspective. Because when I first watch, let's say, a movie that I'm not going to drop any names, but like a 2018 animated film, and I watched it for the first time, and I was just watching it as like a fan, just enjoying it and enjoying the ride. And now watching it again as a reviewer or critiquer and looking for certain things, it's different. It's fun. It makes me pay a little bit more attention. So check that out, 2018. I will post an update when that is available through all the social media platforms, which I will give a shout out to at the end of the interview or end of the episode. So whether you are listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or trying out Amazon Music, or if you're checking out the video version available on YouTube through Keoni Chats, I hope you enjoy my interview, my chat with Jacob Abrego. Recording. So I got to track down the man who can, I feel like, run forever, Jacob Abrego. So, man, you're all in Texas now. Do you ever miss Portland, or do you ever miss the cold weather that we have currently at this time?
Shoot, man, in the summer, I miss it like heck.
Yeah.
It's so hot here in Austin. But I mean, pre-COVID and with my job, I go up to Portland every quarter for sales meetings. So ever since I got this job, like I've been going back every 3 months, and even for the holidays, like I'm going to be up there for 3 weeks. So I am away, but I still come back very frequently. That it's not like a homesick kind of I deeply miss it. It's just like, oh, I miss it, but yeah, I'll be there in like a couple months, so I don't have to dwell on it too much.
Yeah. Is there anyone in particular you're looking to reconnect with? Because I know you're pretty close with pretty much anyone you came in contact with at Nike Portland.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my mom lives in Oregon. She's out in Beaverton. My cousin's there, so I mean, first things first. When I go, I see them. Um, but yeah, it's there's no one in particular. It's just like when I get there, that's when I kind of shoo away my pigeon letters and be like, "Yo, I'm here. Let me know." Type deal. So like I see all the range of people from like my old roommate Krista. I usually see her every single time I'm there. Last time I was there, I had dinner with Ashley Horn.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I just when I get there, I try to connect with people. Of course, I see my boy Noah.
Of course, of
Knows
course.
you.
No,
Uh,
yeah, we had two Noahs, and that was always fun to try to distinguish which one we're trying to refer to over the walkies. And I started doing last names, and I think maybe someone else with the last name Smith came in. I can't remember, but it's just like, it's fun to have that kind of dynamic that we had where everyone was just so close and just be able to drop everything and just reconnect again, just like you never
so
missed out.
yeah, there's a pocket of time at Nike Portland that it was just like everyone was like firing and off in all cylinders, doing the job, like so much fun. There's dark times,
Yeah,
but
always dark times.
there was a there was a moment there that it was just like it was just Nike Portland was perfect.
Yeah, yeah. And how's your parents doing? And with COVID and everything that's going on in Portland?
Mom's is good. She's quarantining. Her job like lets her work from home. So she is diabetic, so she is like a little bit more susceptible to it. But her job like realizes that and let her work from home. So she's fine. All my family down in Corpus Christi, they're fine. All of us have taken this super seriously. No one's contracted it. I have some family friends that I know who've had it, been on ventilators and all the whole shebang, but luckily we're pretty blessed to have it not hit us at all. So yeah.
Yeah, like when I was, we're talking before we started recording that I did some testing, and then anytime I asked me like, "Are you feeling any symptoms?" Like nothing that can't be explained. It's like muscle soreness. I was just working out, so legs a little sore, shortness of breath. I have asthma, so I'm always short of breath. But
Yeah.
I realized I can't make that joke with the actual health professionals, because then the nurse that did the test or just did the preliminaries, she was like very lighthearted, joking, and then as soon as I made that joke, she just like turned it on. I was like, okay, sorry, sorry, sorry.
See, the thing is like my defense mechanism of anything like bad or serious is I revert to humor. Like that's
Mm,
just in my nature. I remember when I did my first marathon, afterwards my heart rate got like really elevated and like they took me to the medical tent. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like I'm seriously fine. And they're like, no, like you're like, you think you're going like hypothermic or whatever. And I'm like, all right, do with me what you will. And they're like, all right, we're gonna need to take your temperature. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And they're like, we're gonna have to To the
Yep.
bad boy. I'm like, all right, buy me dinner first. Like I'm not that kind of guy. But like yeah, like it bums me out when people can't like obviously take this is a lighthearted joke in this scenario. Like I'm not making fun of it, but I mean, we do got to be sensitive around these times. But I always lean on the side of laughter.
Yeah, I always remember that you would have the best jokes, or just everyone gravitate towards you if they wanted to just talk about life or anything like that. When do you remember a time where you didn't have this humor to refer to, or you're just always a little more gloomy? Because that's all I can associate you with, this lightheartedness.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like my gloominess is when I'm alone, but like when I'm around people, it's like it's always on, and I try to like shed some sort of light. I've been like this since I was like a kid. Like we recently found some like home videos on VHS that like I've been like slowly converting to digital. And like I've always been like the butt of a joke. Like I joke that I was a punchline when I was born because when I was born, it was my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt, who's my godmother. It was just them in the room, and wow, I was here. I was coming into the world, and the doctor was like, "Oh, what a beautiful like blonde head of hair." And my grandmother screams at my mom. She's like, "I thought you said the father was Hispanic." And then the doctor was like, "I'm just joking," and like, there I am, like being born as a joke. So like, I feel like that whole dynamic like shaped me of being like this jokester, funny guy, um, who can be serious when he needs to be,
Mm.
but like I said, always leans on the side of laughter.
I think I heard somewhere that like there's like a small percentage of all jokes were serious, or just some an underlining realness to the jokes. Is that at all like, how do you mentally think about that when, this, let's say, use your example of you being birthed as a punchline?
Mhm.
That can be funny, but also it's like, oh, a little sad. So like,
Oh man,
how do you
I love dark humor.
you
Like
know,
I will go deep into darkness with humor. Like I will not hesitate, but like I feel like I do have the ability to like tap into someone else's mind and like already know that, oh, this joke I want to say wouldn't do well with them, so let me like revert it so it will be okay in their mind.
yeah.
But yeah, there's been very few people that like I find that like I can like all my jokes like I can just say without like any repercussion or hold back. There's been a few of my friends that I've just been unleashed with that I can just do anything.
That's dangerous, man. You being able unlimited, that's ooh. So with work, in which we'll dive into later, but I know for me, I'm trying to make jokes with clients, also trying to get them to be a little more lighthearted. But sometimes it falls flat, and then sometimes I feel like it was a little inappropriate. So have you had that experience with your new position at Nike? There, you were talking to, like, let's say, a vendor, and then you try to like lighten the mood with a joke that just falls really flat on its face.
Yeah, I actually have a perfect example. Like I mean, through email, like it's very hard to get like a joke through or like even see if like, oh, did they like that joke or is that like not good?
Yeah.
So one of my teammates on my team unfortunately got let go. Nike went through this whole reorg. So fortunately there was like a lot of layoffs and my team was affected. So for the time being, I'm going to be taking over some of his accounts, and he has like a really important account in Flagstaff. And the owner of that shop emailed my boss saying like, we heard about our rep losing his job. Like we're really worried about our business. And then my boss emailed him back and it was like, don't worry. Like Nike's supporting you. You're like one of the good guys that we were behind. In the interim, meet Jacob. He's going to be taking over like over your account for the time being. And then I emailed back and I was like, hey man, excited to work with you. I know so and so is like a really hard worker, and it's like big shoes to fill. Like, and I know that his shoes went to the Olympics. He was an Olympian, and my shoes were just a D1 college walk on. And I was like, but I'm excited to work for you. work with you. And then like an hour later, he like emails me back and it's like, thanks, Jacob. I'm like, that's it? No, haha. Like, but it's email, man. So it's
Yeah.
really hard, but I've
Yeah.
always been like, I've never been the formal email communicator or the formal person. Like with my job, like any other industry or whatever, they would be wearing suits and ties, walking in to accounts like I'm in jeans and a shirt.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been very lucky that a lot of my accounts have been very lighthearted and very like welcoming to me, who I am as a jokester, but like can tell that, when it gets down to business and me taking care of their business, that they feel comforted and think that I'll do them good, which I will.
Yeah, yeah. Behind all the jokes, you are one of the hardest workers I've ever been around when it came to the customer service world, and then when it came to like jumping into this 8 to 5, every day, I call it an adult job. There's a different type of hard work that comes with that world. So, and when it came to Nike, I know. So currently, you're within the corporate realm, and you worked your way up from being an athlete,
Nothing.
being nothing.
The part-time nothing.
How was that first day of Nike, if you can remember it? Because, for me, it's like I have associations with Nike because they sponsored my high school football team. And
Mhm.
growing up, all of my football teams I was on. So that's why I have a fondness for them. I was just like, eyes were open. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. How did you feel during your first day of Nike?
First day, like first day, or first day as in corporate day?
First day. The first
Day, day.
first day you stepped onto the Nike store that I believe, would it be in Corpus Christi, your first Nike store you're at?
No, Nike Portland.
Nike Portland? Oh, never mind, forget that. Nike Portland. The first day you stepped into Nike Portland as an athlete.
It was a confusing mess for everybody. So when I got hired on, it was very, it's not how we do. When we interview athletes, it's like 5 or 4 of them
Yep.
with like two, like a lead and a coach. With me, I came in late, and I was because I was in town to run a race, and I was still living in Texas. And I came in and I was like, hey, I know this is a complete shot in the dark. Here's my resume. I would be completely mad at myself if I didn't come in and at least try. And then I talked to it was the lead or a coach there. Um, I forgot. They weren't there that much longer, but she really liked me. I went back to my hotel, and then they called me back and they're like, hey, we don't normally do this, but would you come back for a one-on-one interview? I was like, yeah, sure. So interview obviously went well, that I got the job. So the rookie class that I was supposed to be in got trained a month before I actually was able to move. So when I got there, the first person I ever talked to was my boy CJ. And I was like, hey, I'm Jacob. I'm starting here. And he was like, okay, because
Yeah.
it wasn't communicated well that I'm coming in late. So my first day was literally being toured around the store with Ashley
Mm-hmm.
for the first 4 hours. Then I went on lunch. And then I came back, and they're like, all right, here's your mobile. Go work on the floor. And I was like, that's it? So because they thought I was a transfer from another
Oh.
Nike store. So I had no rookie camp. I had no formal training. I had nothing. They were just like, all right, we'll go to men's running since you're the runner, the new runner guy. I'm like, cool. And that's how it started. I
So
literally was just thrown in there.
so I, for a while during that time I was working at Nike, I had that little mantra of fake it till you make it. So how long did you run with that mantra when you first started?
It took a year before Bree, who was our head coach at the time, realized that I never had a rookie camp. So I mean, I wouldn't say I faked it because I knew running. I knew running shoes. Um, that's all. That's all you really needed to know in working in men's running or women's running. But then, as like my time there progressed, then I was like, okay, I need to learn about sports. Where I need to learn about basketball. I need to learn about training. And honestly, I don't even know how I learned it or got that information. It's just like came to me, and like I just realized, what's what and what I need to like learn it and, do my job. So I didn't really fake it, but there was a lot of like quick learning, like
Yeah.
really quick learning.
Yeah, yeah, I remember just a lot of reading on product descriptions on that very small mobile device. But that was always fun to try to, you know, experiment because that was something that was preached. Like try on the shoe, try on the jacket, try on the pants, whatever, just so you can speak as experience. So
Yeah.
as a former Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islander runner, how much of that, just having that experience, because you were mentioning that you were the runner for Nike. What kind of pressures did that come with?
Um, it, I wouldn't call it pressure. Like when I got to the store and realized that I was the only one who knew the sport and like knew that a Pegasus was different than a structure
Mhm.
and knew that a long run is different than a tempo run, is different than an interval run, that's different than a fartlek to a recovery to just a maintenance type run. When I learned that I was the only one in that store who truly knew that, I was like, oh, it's game on. Like this is what's going to separate me from everybody because
Yeah.
like anybody who goes to work at that store for an intention rather than a paycheck is working their butt off to get on campus. So having that something different and something new that no one else had, like I knew like, oh, this is what's gonna get me going. So I no pun intended, ran with it. So no pressure at all, actually.
Oh, there you go. So this kind of internal competitiveness to not just, avoid complacency or just keep progressing forward. Where would you say that started from?
Oh, when I was, growing up with my three cousins, because they call us the core four because we're the first grandkids of the family and we're all born within like 3 years of each other. You have Dylan, and then you have Zach, and then you had me, and then you had Taylor. And then Zach and Taylor were brothers. So it was like four of us that all grew up together. We are brothers. And I came from a baseball family from a baseball town. So what did we play? We played baseball. And what do I suck at? I suck at baseball. I am horrible, dude. And being constantly compared to them and like having to go to practice with them and then having them go on select teams, there was, from a very, very early age, there was a competitive drive onto being better. And this translated to when we would spend the night with each other and play video games, who won at Mario Kart or who could last longer on Grand Theft Auto Vice City with 6 stars. So like it was literally from when I was able to like verbally communicate or compete in some type of anything with my cousins that competitive drive really came out of me and just constantly wanting to be better and to prove myself.
Yeah. Did they stick with baseball all through high school? And when did you make that switch over to running?
So all of them have played baseball all the way through high school. Taylor now plays for kind of like that adult kind of like softball league,
Mhm.
and is I'm pretty sure he's like nationally ranked. Like they went to like a World Series not that long ago in Florida,
Hmm.
and this dude's a mountain of a man. Like he will like. There's a rule set that you can't hit a home run every single time you're up with bat, and like he constantly breaks that rule just because a little swing will just knock the ball clear over to freaking Mississippi.
How do you like control that then? It's like there's no way you can not
Well, like,
hit a home run.
it counts as an out. If like he
Uh,
hits a home run, he can't hit another home run for I think for the rest of the game. So the next time he does, it counts as an out. So you either
wow.
like bunt or just kind of like barely swing. But I didn't stop playing baseball until my freshman year in high school. I joined the team. My nickname was Cross Country. In the off season, we would always like start up the warm up with like a mile, and I would just like dust everybody,
Mm.
which is so much fun. But um, not even halfway through the season, I was like, I don't want to play baseball anymore. Like I'm not having fun. I'm on the B team. I'm on the second string B team, and on the second string B team, all I do is pinch run for people who can't run. So I got no playing time. So I'm like, I just don't want to do it. My heart's not into it. Um, but I didn't want to, like, I was never a quitter. So I didn't want to quit in the middle of the season. So I was like, I'm just going to keep going for my freshman year. And then sophomore year is when I dedicated everything to running.
Okay. And so, how's that conversation with your family? Because they're all Corpus Christi, huge baseball town, like you just said. So, did you ever fear that the conflict that could arise, just saying that you don't want to do baseball?
No, not at all. My family is completely supportive of everything that we do. It was my eighth grade year in middle school. I went to a middle school called Winseal, which was a fine arts academy, but it was in like the poorest side of town. So like we had kids like going to juvie. We had kids at age 12 having babies. Kids, like getting stabbed, bringing guns to school. It was a very bad school. And then on the other side of town, you had Grant Middle School, where all the money went, and all the like rich families went, and all the great runners were. Um, and it was our city championship in the mile, and we were running, and I was mad. I was like, I'm sick and tired of like these Grant guys always like getting the limelight and always, being the shining stars. And so I went out to first, and like I led the whole entire race, and I ended up getting third. And it was like I broke up, like, because Grant was supposed to go 1, 2, 3, and they went 1, 2, 4 because I got third. And at that moment, my uncle, who is father to Zach and Taylor, and he was kind of like the baseball coach of the family, he looked over to my mother, and he was like, Jacob found his sport.
Hmm.
Like Jacob was meant to do this, because at an early age, getting out of my mom's car would be like, time me how long it takes me to get to the door, or time me how it takes to, get to here. But like being in a baseball family, we didn't know that running was a sport. We didn't know that there was track and field or cross country or road racing. We just didn't know that was a thing until middle school.
Okay. So, once you progressed through high school, still running, what was that kind of learning curve like jumping into Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders running team? Because
It
high
was
school is always different from college.
it was a big learning curve that I didn't really learn until halfway through my freshman year, because I thought I could just ride through on with talent, but it wasn't until I got there that I learned, like, you're gonna have to run every day, and you're gonna have to run a lot of miles. And back then, like that's when I learned what how important a long run is. When in the season you need to do tempos and fartleks, and when in the season you need to do like interval training. Because in high school we just kind of did interval style training because it wasn't that really um, structured, and the seasons weren't as long as it was in college. So it was like a very sharp learning curve, that it took a half a semester or a full semester to learn. And then when it came to the fall semester, that's when in the track season, that's when everything started clicking. And then I was like, okay, I need to commit to this.
How are you like when you are still working through that learning curve? I know for myself, when I'm jumping into a new job, I'm a little harder on myself because I want to understand it. I want to be proficient quicker versus later. But then I tell that to some people, they're like, dude, just go easy on yourself. You just started here. I was like, I know, but I want to be as I was, like, let's say my last job where I was so comfortable, I can move without thinking. How are you like when you're still working through that learning curve?
When I was young, I was very stubborn, that I was like, hey, I was good this way, so I'm going to still do it this way. But honestly, I feel like around the time of me being in high school or being in college, in early college, um, running content in the like the YouTube or the online sense really started to flourish. So like I was able to see what the University of Texas guys or the Oregon guys are doing, because it was on this site called Flow Track. They would do like things called like Workout Wednesday or a week, with the team. And so I was able to see like, oh, that's how everybody does it. I guess I got to do that too. So I just, jumped in, cannonball style into what I needed to do. And it was right.
Oh, I'm so happy you said cannonball style. So,
Yeah.
in the topic sheet, I usually send that to my guests for like about 3 days before. There's a photo I found of you from July 30th, 2015, where it looks like you have to hurdle over a rail and then you kind of landed in some water.
Yeah.
So explain that race to me and explain that specific event.
So that's the 3,000 meter steeplechase. It is one of the hardest races anyone could ever do. When it comes to track and field, I would rank the 800 being the hardest race ever, and then the 3,000 steeple to be the second. I mean, sometimes they can, switch back and forth, but essentially what it is that there's 5 barriers, and they're like wooden barriers. They're not hurdles. So like, when you hit a hurdle, it flops over.
Yep.
If you hit a barrier, like you're donezo, you're done in rings, you know? And so there's 4 of them, and there's one on the top of the curb that has a water pit after it, and it's 6 feet deep right at the end, and then it gets shallower. So the object is to land on the steeple with 1 foot and then rocket yourself over and have 1 foot hit the shallow end of the water, and then you keep going. Um, some Kenyans even just like go all the way across and able to just leap over it. I am not a Kenyan. So that particular race, I decided to do my sophomore year in college. And my first one, I actually cracked the top 10 all-time list of my college. And it was a complete surprise to everybody. Like, I specifically remember the first time I did it, my coach was with 2 of our fastest guys in Mount Sac in California, and we're at Texas State in San Marcos, Texas. And my head coach called assistant coach, and he's like, "Hey, how did the team do?" And then Cody was like, Jacob ran and he got 8th, and I think I got 2nd in the race, and he qualified for conference because you have to run a specific time. And he was like, "What?" Like, I heard my coach like over the phone, like, "What? Like, what did you run?" And I forgot what the time I ran, but Cody like told him the time. He was like, "What the hell, Jacob?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I did that race my sophomore and junior year. And so that particular picture is my junior year at Kingsville, Texas. There was only 3 people in the race. I remember this very specifically because of that picture. Buster ended up winning the race. I got 2nd. Again, it's only out of 3 people. And I still qualified for conference running the time that I needed to. But basically what happened was the little, like, not even an inch, maybe like a half an inch of my shoe or to where my spike was barely hit it. So it slipped.
Ooh.
And then I fell forward and just face planted into the water. There is a video of it out there. But my teammates were, because that's what you do when the steeplechase goes on. Everybody goes to the water pit to hopefully see someone fall. And there's been a lot more like nastier falls out. Like, you can just go to steeplechase fails on YouTube and just see like horrendous ones. But yeah, that was my first and ever steeplechase fall, and it was traumatizing, but it was also just a hilarious picture.
So Texas, obviously extremely hot. Was that at all slightly refreshing to get in that water and cool off a little bit, or still you just?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, people take ice baths, and sometimes after the race, people just go sit in the water pit. It's just cooler water.
That's true. I mean, it looks a little green from the photo, but it's probably just from the turf or from the rubber underneath. But
Yeah, the blue track.
yeah, with the boot track, that too. That too. Now, was this the first? I assume this is not the first time you kind of stumbled in a race and kind of maybe lost your momentum. How do you pick yourself up when you make a mistake like that, or let's say you can't hand off the baton during track and field, or you just full of muscle?
My freshman year, I mean, a lot of times in college, especially through cross country, like, I hate to say it, like, I DNF'd, which means like did not finish. Like, I just walked off the track or walked off the course. Like, I just didn't have it that day. And like, I couldn't, like, I was too prideful to finish, which in retrospect, I wish I finished, because I feel like finishing a race is better than not finishing at all.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of learning. It's a lot of mental games of like times where I'm running, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like absolute garbage. And then like another part of me is like, no, you don't, dude. You feel fine. You're fine. And I'm like, all right, I'm fine. And
Yeah.
then like form just like magically gets better. And then I'm just able to finish the run or the workout or what have you. So a lot of people, hate running because, it hurts or it's so hard. But I feel like that is just a smoke screen to like, for people to realize it's hard because it's mentally hard. It's mentally hard to go out and run a mile or 10 miles or whatever, because it does hurt and it does suck, but you can do it. Like, everyone can run a mile. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
be hard, but you can do it. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's slow, like a mile is a mile, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a big mental trip running.
Yeah, because I remember when I was this, let's say like maybe 2 summers ago, I was really getting into running. I think I messaged you where I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get into long distance running. What do I think about? How do I get myself through this like 10 miles when all I have is music and then that's it? Like music can only get me so far. How have you mentally prepared for, let's say, a run during college, leading up to a run during college, and just maybe a lead up to a marathon where obviously you're post college?
Mhm. Well, thankfully in college, I had my teammates with me. So it was always like, talking with them or playing some sort of game. Like, I remember sometimes in long runs, we played this game called categories where we would say like cereal, and we would, line up like four across, three across, whatever. And we'll each take turns naming off the cereal. And if you like, you couldn't name one, you go to the back until someone eventually wins. So
Hmm.
in college, we always had someone to talk to. When we would do workouts, obviously we're not talking, but in between sets, we would always, encourage each other or know not to say anything because we're very irritated.
Mhm.
Like, I remember a specific track workout once, our assistant coach Shadrach was like telling us splits, and we're crossing the 400 mark in like 73 seconds, or we're supposed to cross it like 70 seconds, or we can cross it in 71. And Shaddy would be like, "That's 71." We'd be like, "Shut up!" Like just anything that like anyone said, like, "Hey, good job, Daniel," would like just set us off because we expected so much for ourselves. And like runners, like, time is time. Like, we're a victim to time in our sport. So if you don't hit the time, you're not doing good. So even if we ran, even if like on paper we were supposed to run 400 meters in a minute 10 seconds, if we ran it in a minute 9 seconds point five or a minute 70 seconds point five, that was like a huge difference of morale. Like 69 is better than 70 point something high,
Mhm.
even though like on paper it's faster than what I just snapped,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah.
How superstitious is running as a whole?
um I don't. I mean, there are some people who, you know, have to like wear a certain necklace or wear a certain ring, or do a certain thing. For me, and I know this like a there's a good chunk of people who like to do this. Like, we don't know why we do this. We just do it, and like I don't feel like I'm gonna have a bad race either or. But anytime I get a bib, I immediately crumble it up,
Hmm.
and then I just flatten it out, and then I put it, on my singlet or whatever I'm wearing racing wise. Like, I don't like the clean, pristine, like has to be perfectly aligned. Like, I like it crumbled and I like it crooked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like a superstitious, but it's definitely like a niche that I have.
Yeah. It's just something that, yeah, I guess superstitious wouldn't be the right way. Just your routine. It's
Yeah,
a routine.
yeah,
So currently we're in November. You have a mustache. There is a famous runner from University of Oregon that
yeah.
is known for the mustache and really well affiliated with the Nike. Steve Prefontaine. How much of an influence was he for you as you're, let's say, progressing into your running world?
Yeah, man, he was a rock star. Like, running, we don't get, you know, every 5, 10 years, we don't get a LeBron James or a Steph Curry or, Kyrie or anything like that. But Steve, he was a rock star, man. He was a pioneer for us. I remember the first time I even like heard of him was my freshman year in high school. We had like a pasta team dinner, at my teammate Sean Muller's house, and we all went there. We had pasta, and then we watched the movie titled Prefontaine. There was two movies, or technically three movies, um, two like, kind of like story-driven movies and one documentary. But we watched Prefontaine, starring Jared Leto of
Oh,
30 Seconds to Mars.
oh,
He was Prefontaine.
what?
Yeah, yeah. It's a horrible movie. It's very inaccurate. If anybody does want to see a movie about Prefontaine, I highly suggest Without Limits, starring Billy Crudup as Pre and Donald Sutherland as homeboy Bill Bowerman, our
Okay.
Lord and Savior. Um, uh, but yeah, man, like when I saw that movie, I was just like, I loved his rage to be number one, his like punk rock mentality of like, I don't want to sit back in a race and then steal it within the last 200 yards. Like I want to lead it from the gun and just annihilate everybody. And I loved that attitude from him. And coincidentally enough, that night was the night that I decided I'm like, I want to work for Nike, because in those movies they have like a subtle nod to Bill Bowerman pouring rubber on a waffle iron, and then later in the movie giving Pre like his first waffle racer with the swoosh on it. And growing up, like all my life until that moment, Nike was just Nike. It was this huge corporation, this huge brand, this huge marketing giant. It was always so big to me. So seeing Nike so small of an idea and of a concept really hit me, and I was like, sign me up for that, please. So my introduction to Pre and Nike were in the same night.
Yeah. So then when you got to Nike Portland, you progressed into your job there. Nike Running Club, that was such a big thing. I remember I joined a couple of sessions prior to me becoming an actual employee there, and that was a lot of fun. I was really sad when that ended, but for you to be one of the pacers, what did that mean for you?
Oh, dude, it was so much freaking fun, dude. It was so much fun. Like, especially when we had resources to our disposal and we were firing off at full cylinders, like doing a speed run at MJ track on Tuesdays and a home run on Wednesday, and then ready set go runs on Sundays. It was great, and I got to meet so many people within the running community. And like, the running world is big, but it's also very small, and it's very easy to tap into. That's why I love running so much, because it's like it's one of the most inclusive sports there is. Like, anybody can do it, and anybody, like, you don't have to like have like a huge facility or like anything. Like, anybody can just lace up a pair running shoes and go out for a run. And the dynamic, like, the degrees of separation between you and an Olympian is far more shorter than the degrees separating you from LeBron or KD. Like, I being in RC, like I was able to become friends with people who I had their posters on my wall, looking up or watching their race videos. So in RC, it was like a big life changing, so much fun moment in my life, and I cherish all my fellow pacers and the people that I met at that time.
So what was that like? Because there's that whole mantra of don't meet your idols because they won't be what you expect them to be. How was that meeting people that that currently are on your wall or maybe were on your wall?
Yeah, I'm I'm laughing because one of them is true.
Oh,
Um, I looked up to this. I'm not even gonna say like gender or anything like that.
sure. Yeah.
But I look up to them a lot. And then, in today's climate and what's going on in the world, seeing that they're on that side of things and
Mm,
very heavily on that side of things, it broke my heart. And it is true. Like, don't meet your heroes.
mm.
Um, but um, but other than that, everyone else is great.
So yeah, spinning it back to the world right now, how have you been with the election's officially over at the time of this recording? How are you feeling about the whole like just everything that happened leading up to it?
Oh man, it was stressful. It was very, very stressful. I feel like a lot of people, stood up and voiced their beliefs and, wanted to be on the right side of history. It breaks my heart that still over 70 million people um, are okay with racism in the White House. Um, and so it was very stressful, and it was interesting to see And it actually kind of, made me happy that through my social media, like I didn't have to go through a great purge of like, I'm done with you, I'm done with you, I'm done with you. And it really showed me that I'm surrounded with people who, love and are inclusive and are welcoming to all walks of life. So that made me really happy. There were some people who I kind of like, they're on the right side of things, but like they're on a different thought plane.
Mhm.
For example, someone, posted something of like, it doesn't matter who wins. Like we're like, your life won't be affected that much. Like everything will be okay as long as you love. And I'm like, you can say that because you're white. Like
Yeah.
I've been called, very hurtful things out running. It's very easy as a, brown Hispanic kid in South Texas to be called something, very hurtful while running. So I was able to see like, okay, you don't get it. Like maybe I can talk to you, or I'm like, you just don't get it. Like just go away for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's been crazy, and to like get that news yesterday of Joe Biden winning and these 4 hellish years are finally over. Like, were you still at the store when all the protests and like everything happened when Trump was in office?
Yeah, so I think, I was at least there for one of the days because I know the protest was back in 2016 was at least maybe 2 days or 3 days or something like that. I could be wrong there, but I just remember I was on the Max station. I was on the Max train heading back home and just see a bunch of like people running around and then coming close to the train itself. And like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
then
just walking home.
I just want to go home. And then I think I remember hearing, I think maybe it was Ashley DeSantos. She said that some tear gas did seep into the events at Nike Portland, so they had to shut down the store. I was like, oh damn. I
Yeah.
wasn't working that day, but I was just like, I remember hearing about it like maybe the following day afterwards or 2 days afterwards. So it's just like, wow, wow, yeah.
Man, was it just me, or did you like? I loved when we had to close the store down because of some just dumb nonsense.
A little bit, yeah, because it's like
I,
the day's
dude,
cut short.
I loved the absolute nonsense of downtown Portland.
Yeah.
There's just like, I don't, okay, you probably weren't there. Um, this is like seared into my mind. And to this day, like, I still don't believe I saw this. And no one else saw it. It was just me. So I could be crazy. But it was a morning huddle.
Yeah.
And we're on the mezzanine and we're waiting for the coach to come up to like read numbers and stuff like that. And so we're all just like hanging out and talking. And for whatever reason, like I felt the need to turn around and look at the doors, the glass doors where you can see out. And I kid you not, dude, like I'm not joking. At the door, full makeup, full wardrobe, full like way he's moving around was Captain Jack Sparrow.
What?
Looked me dead in the eyes and just like just doing that little like drunken thing, and I'm just like trying to get someone's attention. I'm like, look, 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 and then like when they turn around, he's just off like walking up the street up Morrison,
uh,
like Captain Jack. And I'm like, what did I just see? Yeah,
where am I at? This is Portland, right? I'm pretty
dude,
sure this is Portland.
it's some weird vortex downtown Portland. Like
It,
you know, you've been there.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, it's what's the guy's name? Roger, who would come in on the crud.
Small boy. Oh God,
uh,
I love Roger.
for those fans that are listening, don't know who Roger is. So Roger was this. I'm not sure if he was like a homeless gentleman or he's just
He lived in a nursing like elder old people's home.
an elderly home, and he would walk into the store with a green and yellow University of Oregon hat, go to like make a loop just on the first floor, and then tell maybe 2 or 3 people that he ran with Prefontaine or know Prefontaine, right, or something like that.
He would go up to you, ask you like, "Are you a runner?"
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you said yes or no. He would say like he watched Steve Prefontaine run. He would tell me he walked to the mayor for gay rights because he's homosexual. Man, my boy Roger, I love that guy. I remember um, he was a runner back in the day. Watched pre-run. Went to the University of Oregon. He's gay. He invited me to his nursing home because they did like some art gallery showing because they all like painted. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm working, Roger. I'm sorry. Me and Russ found out that he has money because I think it was somewhere in the South. I want to say like Virginia. He had this beautiful 3-story Victorian home that he sold for like $800,000. And like he showed us like the deed and like the mock-ups and the blueprints and the pictures. And I'm like, Roger, this was yours? He's like, yeah, this is my family. He's like, I got it sold. And I'm like, what? There's so much more to you that people like are afraid to like, be asked if you're a runner. I'm like, I love talking to him. He's the best.
How did that conversation come about? It was just like, because you're very open, outgoing, very friendly. Would you go down the street and talk to basically anyone on that street just because you want to, or are you just very selective on who you start conversations with?
I would say I'm selective.
Yeah.
Like, especially downtown Portland, it's like a very like keep to yourself type mentality. So I'd always have like my headphones on or something like that. Um, but I would love to spark up conversations with people in those orange vests.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
you know.
Oh. those ones that like, are they? Usually like what, across the street at the Mac station, like always trying
Or
to.
right at our door, and I'm like,
Oh,
I'm going into work. And they're like, oh, you
yeah.
can wait. I'm like, are you gonna pay me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Because
late.
and if you're gonna pay me, I require double.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fork it
Uh,
over, buddy.
so I was selective in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you being all the way in Texas, how did it feel to see Portland have the federals in here for the Black Lives Matter protest, and then just seeing how long that lasted? What was that like from the outside looking in?
I was very proud of the city. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, it's still the whitest city in America. But it's good to know that there's so many people supporting these issues and fighting for what's right and trying to be on the good side of things and, fighting for, equal civil rights for everybody. So I was very proud of the city, but I was also very worried for my friends, people who I still know who worked at the store because it was happening so close to home, and even being scared to like, God, I don't hope they don't like break into Nike Portland, because that was like a second home for me. Like I didn't go anywhere else but home or Nike Portland. That's all the only places I went to. So I was very proud and very worried at the same time.
Yeah, I talked to Alex, and he mentioned how they're starting to board up some of the windows and start to lock up, and it's just every time I think I drove by maybe once because I'm trying to avoid the harder downtown still. It's just like, oh, that was second home. Now
Yeah,
it's all boarded up. But some of the street graffiti, it's actually
it's
very
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, I got to see
Yeah.
it last time I was there.
Yeah. So now with your new position, obviously jumping from athlete, what are you doing now with Nike that you can mention or say?
I mean, I could pretty much mention everything.
Oh, perfect.
From full-time athlete, I got moved to Dallas, and I became the central running specialty sales rep. And I've had that job for almost, yeah, actually, oh wow, I'm actually coming up to 2 years with this job. With this whole reorg, our titles and roles got changed a little bit. So now I am, my official title is North America RSG Marketplace Partner Manager.
That's that I'm imagining that on a business card. That's stretching from left to right.
I just say marketplace manager for
Mm.
running specialty.
Yeah.
Then RSG stands for running specialty group. That's kind of like what this industry defines us. That like we're the RSG, the running specialty groups. So my job basically is I have this pocket of the United States of Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kansas that I work with independent running stores. So they're not Nike-owned stores. They're owned by regular people, and they sell all sorts of brands from Nike to New Balance, Hoka, Brooks, Asics, Mizuno. And my job is just to maintain the relationships and sales with these accounts.
Okay.
That's what I do. And then every quarter, if there wasn't a pandemic, I would travel, hop in my car and travel to all these stores with a trunk full of apparel and footwear of the season that's coming out a year in advance. So right now we're prepping to sell in fall 21. So stuff that's coming out next July. So I would be showing them like, hey, this is the new peg. These are the new colors. This is just there's nothing changing to the Vomero, or here's the new Infinity Run. Show them the colors, look at their bookings, like help them order, essentially just showing them the line. And then anytime between that, it's almost like, it's kind of like working at a retail store where I'm just kind of like, emailing the counter, calling them like, hey, how's it going? Do you need any help? Do you need any like more inventory of whatever this is? And then outside of that sales aspect, when it comes to like the relationships, it's, just being there. It's, being there for whatever they need. Doing events is something that we really we're doing, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, there's certain accounts across the nation that Nike's like really, really focusing in on. And I'm very thankful that one of them is one of my accounts here in Austin, the Loop Running Supply. And they're kind of like the new wave of the running industry. They're young. It's not just a 70-year-old guy who ran back in the 70s, and just like, here's a rack and here's some shoes. Same formula, give you shoes, give me money. Where Nike and my team, we're way more focused on culture than commerce. So that's what really made me happy to know that my boss doesn't care if, I'm up $1 million or down $1 million, as long as, my accounts are happy and they like Nike and they're bringing those orange boxes out with a handshake. We're doing our job. So super, super happy.
This does seem like more up your alley versus like just stationary at a desk looking at like stats on a Excel sheet, for example, all day long, and not, you want to continuously interact with people outside of that, headquarters. Just keep those connections strong. So look at that, man. You found the dream job.
It is a dream job. I always see that when people say like, oh, you're living the dream. I'm like, I'm living a dream. I'm always going to have other dreams.
Yeah.
So this isn't the dream job. That's, that's it for old Jacob Abrego. There's always going to be more. There's always going to be more. Just haven't figured out what the next move is yet.
So I remember you would lead some rookie training camps. Like, let's say I'm working back at house, I need to go grab something. And then now with you in this role where you are still talking to those store owners about the new upcoming lineups, how does that feel to pass knowledge and just to always be open to helping people grow?
It's fun, man. I love teaching. I love educating people about running. I love being very intricate about, running shoes and like why this is here or why this is important or why this color, hollers back to something of, age of old or something like that. I love giving out information. I don't know where it's come from or why I do. I just love doing it. It's so much fun. Nike is a storytelling brand, and I love to talk and I love to tell stories.
Yeah, I remember when I do enjoy that also, just being able to help people grow. And I remember the example I was thinking about, but I don't really use the name, is like when Seth Murphy started at the store, I trained him and I helped him grow to seeing where he is now. And I always compare that to being a proud parent. It's like, oh, my child, you have come such a long way.
Yeah.
So I think a little bit after you got this position, well, I think while you're still in the stretch, you ran with, I think, I'm going to butcher the name, Eliud Kipchoge, the world record holder for launch.
Eliud Kipchoge.
Eliud Kipchoge. I feel like the last name I was going to get, but then the first name I was going to.
So I ran with him a year before I got this job. So I was still working at Nike Portland. I don't think NRC was on at the time.
I don't think so. I do remember like when this whole thing, you running with him, and then he doing the whole marathon. That I remember that. So I think that was like 2017. I want to say maybe.
This was after his first attempt to breaking 2 hours in the marathon.
Okay.
So May 6th, that's when he we did the Nike Breaking 2 and ended up running 2 hours and 25 minutes or
Mhm.
25 seconds. And then that Halloween of that same year, 2017, my friend Jenna Smith, who was working for the running brand team, she called me up and she's like, "Hey, do you want to come to this event on Nike? There's going to be like a run. Do you mind leading the group in a run?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure. Sounds like fun. I have nothing to do. I have the day off." So I went over there, and she's like, "Cool. We have an athlete. You're just going to run with them so they know where to go." I'm like, "Cool. Yeah, for sure." Opened up the curtain. And then I just like bow down to my king, I'm not worthy. And it was Ellie Kipchoge, and it was the greatest moment of my life because I got to run 2 miles with the greatest. I say the greatest runner of all time. People say the greatest marathoner of all time, but he's the goat nonetheless. And I got to run with him.
Oh man. So that photo, is that one of those photos where you frame it up and you say, "Here, mom, this is an amazing moment in my life," or is this one of those you just always look on, let's say your phone's with a smile on your face?
I do want to print it out at some point because it's just such a perfect. It's just so perfect, and I'm so happy that my friend Laurel got it because essentially what happened was when we finished the run, everyone was like picking it up and like finishing the run hard in, and like I just kind of kept pace with him. And then at this like imaginary line, I went like that, like I leaned in the tape and beat him. And when I did that and came back up, he like looked over at me, he smiled, and thankfully she caught a live video, like live picture of that, so we were able to like scroll through it to the perfect moment where he's
Ah,
looking at me and smiling. But yeah, like I want to print out that picture, and I do have a pair of the Zoom flies I'm running in. I had him sign those, and I haven't ran in them since, and they're just like tucked away in my closet right now.
that's pretty much a good call.
Yeah.
I remember, oh god, I think it'd be Janelle, where he's just like always collects shoes, and I always wonder like, does he actually wear them, or does he just like put them on display? But then I thought I saw his like Instagram story where it's just all still in boxes. I feel like for those shoes specifically, you should get like a glass case and really maybe
Yeah,
put some of that music too.
yeah, right. I have 3 categories of shoes actually. Like outside in my balcony is like all my running shoes, and they're just kind of like thrown out there. And there's like almost 10 of them right now. And then in my closet on the floor, there's like my just like everyday shoes that are just like, you know, beat to hell. And then on top of a shelf in my closet, those are all like my shoes that I'm like really happy that I have that I wear on special occasions. Like I don't wear them out like every single day, but I actually haven't gotten a pair of shoes that I've treated like that in a very long time. Kind of leaving Nike Portland, I've kind of like um, all
Slows
my knowledge,
down.
all my knowledge of like drops and basketball shoes and Jordans and all that stuff, just like completely just like got out and threw away. And I'm like, all right, just back to running.
Yeah.
Just give me some running shoes and Converse, and I'm set.
I still so like I'm at a job where I can actually, if I wanted to, afford those shoes. Because when I was at Nike Portland, I was like, "There's no way I could have dropped like $200
It's
on a
hard,
pair of
man, 'cause you
shoes."
don't get employee purchases on the big heat drops.
Yeah, even with some of those, like let's say after they've been here for a bit, it's still expensive. So even when I have the money now to like purchase one of those shoes if I want to, I'm still like, it's just so much. That's
Yeah,
$200 that can go towards like food or gas. How do
yeah,
people do this?
yeah. It's you got to pick your battles. If something like truly means something to you, and there's you like the story behind the shoe, or whatever, then get it.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that. Oh, I think unfortunately the competitor to Nike's Adidas. I believe Adidas did some Star Wars shoe collaborations a little bit
Yeah.
that or Marvel. So granted, that's probably still out of my realm as far as like I'm still not going to get him. I know that Star Wars is a big thing for you as well as Marvel. How did
Mhm.
that passion come about?
Oh man, so Star Wars was like my first introduction to film. It's like one of the first movies like I remember seeing, um, and it taught me like as funny as it sounds, or as nerdy as it sounds, or weebish or whatever. Like it taught me a lot. Like Star Wars has like a lot of deep meaning into it. Whether believe in like a higher power, the Force can be like you know easily just placed with faith and force. It's all the same thing to me. And then a scene is especially when the movie A New Hope, when Luke is looking out at the binary sunset, and you have that score of John Williams playing, and you just see this like this kid looking out at the sunset, wanting something bigger in his life, really resonated to me. And then seeing Princess Leia, seeing this like this strong woman who's not a damsel in distress and could like she is the one who got them out of the detention center when Luke and Han were trying to rescue her. So that like instilled in me like women are strong and they can hold their own. So Star Wars is like it holds a special place in my heart. And like I know people give shit about the prequels or the sequel trilogies, and to me I'm like I love it. It's storytelling. It's a beautiful story. Like if you just put it on paper, the entire Star Wars story is beautiful. Maybe some directorial choices were poor, but at the end it was great. But then when Marvel came about, that elevated into so much more because oh man, I love Marvel, and like I
Yeah.
could talk days and days and days about it because it is the epitome, it is the pinnacle of storytelling. Like never in cinematic history did a set of movies tell individual stories leading up to one huge story. Like all these individual stories were curated into this huge arc that ended with Infinity War and Endgame. And it's never been done before. And like to have these actors like sign on for these extensive like 10 movie roles, 5 movie roles, or what have you, and have joy into that. It was a completely knock out of the park. And it's great storytelling, man. I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's so I have X-Men over to my right, and then I have both also the Joker. So I know that's kind of crossing universes, but just the whole idea of how superheroes are being told in their stories. Yeah, exactly. It's like, wow, they really played that elegantly. And I know DC isn't doing as well in movies at the time of this recording. Ooh.
My bad. Text.
Okay. I'm a little deaf now, but
Your time is up.
hey, thank you for having me, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, it's just like the whole. I had this conversation with someone where they're like, "We're like, how serious are you in this Marvel versus DC fight? Like, are you gonna like belligerent me if I say I'm a Marvel fan?" It's like, no. It's like if you're a fan of just superheroes in general, the stories that they tell is absolutely just it's amazing. It can be through comic books, TV show, or movies. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I do admit that Marvel is pretty much crushing it right now in the
You
live
remember
action.
you remember Mike Dirkhoek, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I randomly email him saying DC sucks. He's a big DC fan, and like I like me and him went on like paragraphs of like arguing why Marvel's better than DC. We go at it, and it's like on our Nike emails too.
So
Just
it's tough.
randomly like hey, here's your monthly reminder that Marvel is better than DC, and also the word. Um, it is funny.
How important is it to just always maintain those connections you made with people that you met at Nike Portland?
I feel like it's important. I feel like it's very important to always keep the bridges that you want open because you never know what's going to happen. You never know a role might pop up that you know of that's like, oh my god, that is that person, that's that role for them, let me make the connection. Or it might be vice versa where someone's higher up than you and you have that connection. I mean, that's pretty much why I got this job, was a connection that I made that wasn't even like had any benefit really to me other than I just made a friend. Like my boss now, I met him when he was working for Nike Skateboarding, and we
Hmm.
became homies. And I ran with his skateboarding team for Hood to Coast, and then now he's my boss. Like when I became president, I had no idea that that was going to translate into something that was going to benefit me. Because the only benefit that I saw out of it right then was a solid friendship.
Yeah,
It's
I
really
know.
important to keep those bridges open. It means
That's what
both.
that's what's been nice about having this because prior to me trying to schedule this with you, we haven't talked since Nike Portland days. So it's nice to reconnect and see that you're doing amazingly well for yourself in the blistering heat of Texas, which
Yeah.
I do miss right now. I'm a big. I kind of think I'm sometimes in the wrong state because I do like the heat. I do like running in the heat, and I've been. It's not fun. No,
Come
don't
here
do
in
it.
the summer.
No.
You
Can
you you eat those words, man. When you're losing, and I'm not joking at all, you lose 5 pounds a run.
wow.
And of course, it's just water weight, but you lose it, and you feel like you're constantly trying to like drink more water to recover for the next day. Like it is, I mean, your shorts are like dripping wet. You're like your fingertips are dripping wet. Like Texas in the summer, especially here in Austin, where 6:30 in the morning, it's 81 degrees and 94% humidity.
Oh Jesus.
It's hard, man. So you want to go somewhere there's dry heat.
Okay. Okay. So then, how's your recovery been post, let's say, a run here back up in Portland, and then post a run back down there?
You can get away with a lot in Portland because it's good air. You have a
Yeah.
lot of green, so a lot of good oxygen. It's cooler in the mornings. Like even in the summer, it's still relatively cool in the morning. So um, it's easier to like get to the next run. But here in Texas, it's like you have to like strategically plan out everything and then be on top of drinking water because boy, if you go for a run and you don't hydrate well, that next day is gonna suck.
Yeah.
Not just running, but just how you feel.
Yeah. Because I've noticed, like, let's say I do a 5 mile run after work, and then I'm at home, I shower. I can't eat. I was just like, I could try put something in the stomach, but I'm just like, I need water. I need electrolytes. I need to recover. I need to stretch. And then I could think about eating a burger or salad. No, I'm kidding. That'd be kind of
Right.
odd to just down a burger after running like five
Well,
miles
yeah,
in heat.
you just ran 5 miles in heat. Eat a burger.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I could talk to you for hours on hours about running and Marvel, but I do like to end my conversations by asking some hypothetical questions. So I have a packet of about 170. I'm just going to ask you two, or if you want to go through the whole 170, that's cool too. We'll make a whole episode about that.
Let's do it.
So my first one is if so I thought about this because I'm not sure if you're a conspiracy theorist or not, but if you could know the truth behind any one secret or mystery, what would it be?
My mind immediately went to Atlantis for some reason.
Because we just talked about DC and Aquaman.
No, not really. Like, where did I come across Atlantis? I don't know. But yeah, it's like a lost civilization. Like, is that real? Like, I would love to know if like that was real and if they do have some like heightened level of technology because like, you know what's scary, man? Like, we know so much more about outer space than we do our own ocean.
Yeah,
We can go to outer space. We can't go deep in the ocean. So we have no idea what's down there. That's terrifying. So I would like to know what's like going on down there.
yeah. I
I
so I
guess
just kind of what was that?
I guess that's a secret that I don't know. Conspiracy wise, conspiracies, man. There's always good ones, whether it's we've been to the moon or not, or all this mumbo jumbo.
I was talking with someone, and they said that they're like irrational fear. I don't know why it's something I start to like to ask people is octopuses because the ocean is just so vast, and then you never know when you're gonna come across one, and then next you know, you see a bunch of arms, and then crack
Dude, yeah,
coming
dude,
back coming back to the Jack Sparrow, the Kraken. There you go.
yeah, man. Ocean's weird. Like whales are out there, man. Like they're huge. Like there's these huge fish just living their lives and we can't see them or even get to them.
Yeah,
That's terrifying, man. Like
yeah.
freaking megalodon.
Oh, that's
Like
true.
any like you know in normal rational thinking, they're like, oh, this gigantic, ginormous shark. That's not real. No, that was a real thing. There was
Yeah.
a real shark that big, and it's bonkers, man.
Yeah, I know Jurassic Park is obviously a fiction movie, but when I saw the newest, I think maybe the first one they had
Hmm.
with Chris Pratt and all them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that where they had like the whale on a line and then a giant shark just swallows it up. I was
Actually,
like, oh
for
wow.
all you film people out there, that was not a whale. It was a great white shark, and that was a nod to Steven Spielberg, who directed Jaws and the original Jurassic Park.
This man's just a film encyclopedia.
I could spew out so many little nuggets of information about film. Like if you're watching a movie and there's a storm in it, that signifies something's going to change in the movie. So
Hmm.
storms and like rain like always signify change. Perfect example, Jurassic Park. When did the T-Rex come out? During a storm. And that's when everything changed.
Damn.
And then
Well,
anytime you see a movie where you see the character and the camera is facing a mirror and you see the character's reflection in the mirror, that is a nod to Steven Spielberg because that he every single movie he has that shot in it. So,
what?
yep,
This man's noggin is just filled with everything.
I know. I love film.
It's yeah, it's a great way to escape. I've noticed that too. Like I'm trying to diagnose why I like TV and movies so much. It's like it's just nice to turn off the brain for a bit and just absorb in something else that someone made, and it's art.
Yeah, I can like I kid you not, man. There's so many like movie things that like people don't realize like the director's playing with them that like when they like realize that they're like, oh my god. Like have you seen the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks?
A long time ago.
So in that movie, like go watch it if you can. Um, the whole entire movie, there is no musical score because you know, like on the directors use musical scores to like sway emotions to like get to where you want it to be. So if it's like a you know an anxious moment in the film, the music's gonna kind of cultivate that emotion in you. So the director made the choice of not having any sort of musical score towards the very end because he wanted you to feel like you were on that island with him and you're
Oh,
always like paying attention. So
oh,
yeah, that when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's insane.
but that's also so smart.
It is very smart.
Damn,
Yeah.
those, damn.
There's a lot of stuff about film that people don't know or haven't learned yet or what have you that when they know it just makes the movie that much better.
Did you take any classes like film studies?
I took film studies my senior year in high school, and then ever since then, there's never been some like formal education, but I always read more about the film than just watching the film. Like I'll read about like the production side of it, or I'll look up who's the composer of that film. Um, and I'll always look at like YouTube people who like do movie reviews and stuff like that. I'll like look at them and like, oh, I didn't catch that, let me go back and watch that. I'm like, oh look, there it is, there's that thing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, when the Marvels movie came out, like let's say the Avengers, I would always, as soon as we finished watching it, my brother and I would always go to this one guy who looks for the Easter eggs and dives in deeper. And
Mr.
once we're,
Sunday's videos.
it's called like Emergency Awesome.
I don't like him.
You don't like him?
I don't like that guy. My guys are Mr. Sunday. It's Mr. Sunday movies and Jeremy Johns. Those are my two
No.
guys.
I think there's another one I can't think of off the top of my head, but yeah, Emergency Awesome was that was the one that we really gravitated towards. But then he stopped reviewing like all the good DC TV shows. He just reviewed like a lot of Game of Thrones when it was popular. And we're like, dude,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know there's another things going on? No, okay, never mind.
yeah.
Yeah. So the second hypothetical question, which I forgot we were supposed to do. So if you could choose any mode of transportation, no matter how ridiculous, what mode of transportation would you want to use to get around that's not running? I'm at that last part.
And I'm bound to the efficiency of this said automobile, if you will, or this mode of transportation.
Yep. Let's say you need to go to the grocery store and then this is the only way you can get there. But
Dang, for
that
real.
without running.
I don't want to be boring and just say car because that's the most efficient way I can think is possible. Um, I mean, I like those Lime scooters, man. Those Lime scooters are fun. A lot of fun, just scooting about. Couldn't
Yeah.
get far, couldn't do my job well, but scooting's fun, man.
Scoon. Yeah, I remember you also used the Nike bikes that
Oh, yeah,
were
those are fun.
oh And then I think, yes. Oh no, I think they still have them around. Like let's say downtown. So I thought they would like pick those up and you know clean those off because of COVID. But like no, they're still hanging out.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people will be using them.
I don't think so either. But those lime scooters, my brother is a big. He does not like the lime scooters. So
How come?
I think he just sees it and he's one of those like everyone's going towards one direction. He likes to go in the opposite direction.
Has he ridden one?
I don't believe so.
That's his problem. Once
Ah,
he gets on, then he's gonna know. I'm like, okay, this is pretty fun. No, like
that's
I completely agree. Like I've always been the guy who's like, oh, everyone's skateboarding. I'm on a rollerblade. Like
yeah.
I've always like strived, wanted to do the different thing, but scooting's fun, man.
Yeah, I've kind of adapted that personality too, where like I will go towards that one direction, but then go against it. Or everyone's going one way, I'm going the other way. But then a little bit later on, I'll turn around and start following the pack.
Yeah,
Like I just got into some of like Drake's songs that came out let's say like 2018, 2019. I'm just now like, oh, okay. I could jam to this a little bit.
okay, so speaking of that, and exactly Drake and to what we're talking about, that music video he came out with at
Yep.
Nike Q,
Yeah.
I watched it, I'm like, why is everybody so excited? Like, I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, I really, like, I honestly don't get it. Like, I didn't think the song was that catchy.
Yeah.
I didn't think, like, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, he's at Nike headquarters. I'm like, I've been there. No one's getting crazy about me, but I know he's Drake, and I am not Drake. But yeah, man, like I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah. What were some of the responses you got from, let's say, your coworkers when that video got dropped?
It wasn't like any anyone said anything. I was just seeing people's social media, like
Mm.
Kate or Jonelle or Joe posting something, and I'm just like, oh, like cool. Let me watch this video, and I can watch it. And I'm like, so why are people excited? Like, I know he's like a Nike, not athlete, but personality.
Yeah.
I mean, this is cool, I guess. Like, he's at the company store. Like, we all know, like, nothing's that good at the company store.
Yeah, no. I get
Uh,
that realization also. I'm like, I can find better stuff at like Woodburn.
yeah, you can't, or even like Nike Portland, because we get a lot of the seasonal stuff like weeks before they do. And
Mm.
if you're an employee, it's the same discount.
Yeah, so it's like that lost its luster for me once I've gone like let's say my most recent time or the time before. I'm just like there's nothing I can see myself spending like a minimum of like $100 on. So it's like well, off
Yeah,
to Woodburn or go
yeah, or online.
or online. So Jacob Abrego of the Austin, Texas area Nike running aficionado. Where can the people find you on social media?
At Jacob Runs on Instagram. If you're a Twitterer, at Abrego Runs. Because believe it or not, there is another Jacob Abrego out there who runs,
What?
and I'm faster than him, and that's all that matters.
That is all that matters.
But yeah, Jacob Runs Instagram, Abrego Runs Twitter.
All right, man. Thank you so much again. I know we had to kind of bounce around a little bit to get this interview scheduled, but we did it.
We did it,
We just
man.
we just
That's our life.
crossed that finish line. That's
So
me trying to break the
edging out.
yeah, just ever so slightly. But you're obviously faster than me, so that's never gonna happen. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the interview. Do you have any questions for the guest? Put them in the comments below, then I'll get them answered for you. So if you like what you heard and you want to hear more from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, and now Amazon Music. But if you want a video version, you can search Keoni Chats on YouTube, subscribe, and hit the bell button to get notified when a new episode is released. To stay connected with KC Media and Keoni Chats, you can follow KC Media 13 on both Instagram and Twitter. And then on Facebook, search Conlu K Media, and that will take you to KC Media's Facebook page. So if you'd like to be a guest, go ahead and direct message me on any of those social media platforms, or you can email me on kcmedia13@yahoo.com. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.